6 days later, Jesus took with him Peter and James and his brother John, and led them up a high mountain by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his face shone like the sun, and his clothes became dazzling white. Suddenly there appeared to them Moses and Elijah talking with him. Then Peter said to Jesus, "Lord, it is good for us to be here. If you wish, I will make 3 dwellings here, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." While he was still speaking, suddenly a bright cloud overshadowed them, and from the cloud a voice said, "This is my Son, the Beloved. With him I am well pleased. Listen to him." When the disciples heard this, they fell to the ground and were overcome by fear. But Jesus came and touched them, saying, "Get up and do not be afraid." And when they looked up, they saw no one except Jesus himself alone. As they were coming down the mountain, Jesus ordered them, "Tell no one about the vision until after the Son of Man has been raised from the dead." Yesterday I was talking about Saul, King Saul, and how he sought the illegal services of a necromancer to rouse up Samuel, the dead prophet, to consult with him. I talked about how it's forbidden in the Old Testament law of Moses to try and communicate with the dead. And offhand, I'd say that's a good idea. Leave the dead alone, right? They are dead for a reason. But I was talking about how people take opinions and make dogma out of them. Opinions are not necessarily truth, unless those opinions happen to be truth. They are not automatically truth. So here you see in Matthew chapter 17, Jesus talking to 2 dead men, 2 dead prophets, Moses and Elijah. Moses representing the law, Elijah representing the prophets. This was one of those strange incidences in the Gospels. Stranger than the rest, I guess you could say. Its strangeness is of a different category than multiplying fish and bread. Different even than walking on water. Here you have Jesus going up the mountain to pray, and in a bright cloud of glory, he communes with 2 dead men. Obviously, they are dead to us from an earthly perspective, but yet they go on living in some form. In the same way, Jesus is dead from an earthly perspective, although uniquely resurrected. But he sure isn't walking around in Jerusalem today. Those who have gone on before us continue to exist in some form. The Old Testament forbids talking to the dead, even trying to communicate with them with a necromancer or any way you might try to communicate with the dead. Maybe build a telephone like E.T. built a telephone, try and phone home or something. Whatever it is, the Old Testament says not to commune with the dead. But yet, you see, it did happen in Jesus' own life. And Jesus himself said that God is the God of the living, not of the dead. Because he said that as the Jews themselves of his time spoke of God, they called him the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Meaning that the implication is Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob continue to live, though physically dead, for thousands of years. So this is one of those challenging passages that challenges us to look deeper than the material world, to look deeper than the physical world. Is there more? Is there more to this life? Is there more to what meets the eye? Again, as I said yesterday, we have more questions than answers. But I'm perfectly fine with that. Because questions lead us to seek answers. Answers are destinations. You reach an answer and you stop. But if you have the courage to face a question, it leads you down paths of understanding, of knowledge, and of wisdom.